Okay, class, welcome back. You've done so much work over the course of this term. Now it's time to share your journey with the people that care most about it, aka me, Eli, other folks that if you're really onto something, we want to share this story with. It's a narrative, it's a journey. Like I said, you're learners, you're researchers. We're not trying to turn you into accountants or business people or finance folks here that are getting ahead of themselves with the 5-year financial projections of this startup that are scientifically wild guesses, made up in a dark bedroom somewhere. So it's very liberating to be in a position to tell the story as it happened, with all the bumps and bruises and scars and lessons learned and fist fights and, well, hopefully not fist fights, but I've seen it happen. Tears shed, in this case, days of time and energy lost versus if you're taking a longer course or if you're a typical failed entrepreneur like myself, years lost. We want to tell this story through what I'm calling an evidence-based pitch. So a lot of times you're going to hear this being called an investor pitch or a demo day pitch or an elevator pitch. They're all essentially one and the same, but I want to drive home the E in our REAL framework, the rigorous, evidence-based, action-oriented learning framework. So evidence-based should go directly into the way that you're telling the story about what you've learned as a startup, a temporary organization searching around in the dark for a repeatable, scalable business model. So it's really just kind of an update. Like, hey, we started here with a hypothesized problem. We formed a team. We came up with a cool solution. We developed an MVP. We talked to a lot of customers we learned this. We totally abandoned that idea. We went back to the drawing board. We created a new MVP. We released it. We learned a lot from that. So it's really just recounting the story in a compelling way that matches, the most important components of a business model canvas, aka the problem, the solution, the market, what the opportunity looks like, who the team is. It's all about execution. And so this just reinforces the fact that you're the right people to tackle this problem and to change the world. So as an example, we do this all the time here at ASU, but as online students, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind, many of you can engage in these types of opportunity to share your innovation with a much larger stage. Obviously, we're going to share it here in class, but like many of our top innovators here at ASU, you'll also have opportunities, I would wager, locally within your local area of economic development, whether it's the Small Business Administration in your hometown, or whether it's the very active high-tech startup community within your region. Here in the Phoenix metro area, we were just ranked number 3 in terms of growth in the realm of entrepreneurship and innovation as a larger ecosystem where ASU is a big node. So I would argue that wherever it is that you're from, there's an opportunity for you to stand up in front of a group of people and share this concept, get feedback, and in many cases win some funding and support. And if you want to do that with us here at ASU, you are totally welcome to do that. We have anywhere from $1,000 in funding through our eSeed program all the way up to $50,000 in funding through our Igniter challenge out of WP Carey. So tremendous opportunity. This is Butterfly Cherry. She's going to be upset that maybe I shared this image with her, but very well articulate, developed message to a people that wanted to hear the journey of the technology that she and her teammates were bringing to market. So what we're going to ask you to convey in these presentations is a story. You're going to be telling us about you who may have identified the pain point, or somebody very close to you that has the pain or has expressed a very innate desire for an opportunity to make their lives better. So you're going to start with who is it that has the pain or the problem or is looking for a way to make this aspect of their life better. So we always start with that opportunity, the pain point or the opportunity crystallized through a very engaging narrative. Human beings love to hear about other human beings, and they love to hear, well, in some cases don't love to hear it, but it's compelling for us to hear about, and we empathize with what other people are going through. And in many cases, we can relate to pain points as they're described very graphically, in a very real way. And then, you immediately go from pain point to, hey, we're smart people. We're brilliant engineers and business majors here at ASU. When we put our heads together, we formed the trifecta of, the super Power Ranger of the hustler, the hacker, and the hipster. Of course, we're going to come up with an innovative solution to that pressing pain. Here's what it is, and here's how it works. It's pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3, we've got these 3 features, and people are excited about using it because it makes their life 10 times better. It's better, faster, cheaper than what they can find currently on the market. So that's the competitive analysis piece. And again, you want to go into a little bit more detail about, before you go into the competitive analysis, about who those people are, what motivates them. Is it the user? Is it the payer? So is it a business to consumer model? Is it a business to business? We just need to understand who has the problem, what the problem is, and what your solution is in any of that kind of order here. And then we go into the business model, right? So this is what we talked about in the last model. Walk me through a typical sale. So once I understand the pain point and the solution and who has that innate pain point and what is the process they go through to go out in the marketplace and attempt to solve that pain, once they find you and their eyes light up, like the picture of Sarah with holding the product, like, I can't wait to have this app so that, with celiac disease, when I'm in the restaurant, I can easily figure out what foods have allergens and which don't. I want to be the first one to buy it. Okay, well, tell me how Sarah finds out about the product, how she purchases it, how much she gets paid, or how much she pays, and how often. So that's going to be a very graphical representation of your business model. And then tell us about who you are, right? Because at the end of the day, your idea, again, I'll go back to my introduction to this course, is 1% of the equation. In the world of startups, so your idea is almost worthless. Everybody has ideas. We talked about this in intellectual property, right? Everybody's got thousands of ideas. The patents are stacked up in the patent office from floor to ceiling, right? So if ideas are so ubiquitous, they're a dime a dozen, really in the world of how do I move this into the marketplace to make the world a better place, 99% of the equation focuses on execution. And people execute. So why is your team the right team to take this, in some cases, very, common idea to the masses? It's going to require a ton of rigor, and you need to demonstrate that you both got the ninja skills capable of delivering the value, but you also have the passion and the drive to run through the walls that most serial entrepreneurs, all serial entrepreneurs, in fact, know are going to come in front of you between point A and point infinity. So make sure you introduce your team, explain why you're so passionate, and you'll be in good shape. And then finally, you want to show what you've done to get to this point where you're having this conversation, you're telling this story, and what you're asking for in order to move forward, right? So it's always a journey. In order to get to the next step, we could really use your help with X, right? So having an ask of either money or resources or mentorship is always a good idea. And we're going to expect that in your evidence-based pitch. So those are the major components. Now there's many other components that we could add in, like if you do have technology that's protectable, you want to make a strong case that you do have a competitive advantage that can't be encroached on with a patent or a copyright or some other thing. I mentioned, but not specifically, doing a competitive analysis, maybe a chart that I showed you a while back. Other opportunities might be to talk about the larger market opportunity. If your innovation doesn't equate to $1 billion opportunity, a lot of people out in the community might not even really care because it's so niche or small, but that's fine. You can be a Main Street entrepreneur, and you don't need to be too concerned about being a high growth tech entrepreneur like some of the apps and web products that are currently out. So the name of the game is, how are we making people's lives better, whether it's on a small local scale or on a global scale? So you want to tell that story in a very visual, compelling, authentic way. And the only way to do that is by leaning on the evidence that you've collected throughout this course. So just some basic rules of thumb. And this goes not only for this class, but in your life in general. If you're presenting an innovation within your career, within the job that you're either employed in now or you will be employed in as you're looking at professional career opportunities, these rules apply. So don't feel like this is totally, in the silo of entrepreneurship. this applies to presenting new innovative ideas that corporate America and other nonprofit agencies are absolutely thirsty for. That's why they're hiring ASU graduates more so than anyone else in the country, because you are being indoctrinated into this very straightforward process of presenting your ideas in an evidence-based way. So we recommend one slide deck with unlimited slides. So that's like a PowerPoint presentation. I'm actually using Google Slides. You can use whatever you want. But the reason I say Google Slides is because, it should be a team effort. It's not a solo job of creating the slide deck. So you want to get all your teammates involved with creating slides and being aware of what is being presented in asynchronous, collaborative format. No limit on slides. So you oftentimes, in this case, we say 5 minute. 5 minutes is generally a comfortable opportunity to present something. But that can mean you're clicking almost every 10 seconds. So the number of slides oftentimes doesn't matter. Also, the order of things doesn't matter as well. Like, you could start by introducing your team before you get into the problem. And an example of that might be, here's the problem, and here's the team that is so passionate about solving it. And you introduce yourselves, and then it's like, once we got together, we came up with solution X. And the narrative is really up to you how you want to tell the story. We also mandate that everybody gets involved. Again, entrepreneurship is not a solo sport. So if you don't have folks on your team that show that they're engaged in the hard work, the process of collecting data, analyzing those data, and making strategic decisions as a team, you're going to fail. So it's all about execution. And in the startup world, every researcher needs to be heavily invested in the process. And that includes the process of telling the story on the back end. You want to use more photos and less words. I actually had in here at one point no bullet points, and of course there's bullet points on the slide, but you want to limit your bullet points. This is actually a horrible slide. Do not use this slide as a touchstone as you're developing yours. I had one of my former students call me on this actually, but try not to use any bullet points. Just put one or two big words up on every slide, and that'll be your trigger in your memory to talk about that stage of your developmental process. Remember, you're just retelling the story that you've been through over these past 5, 6, 7 weeks, right? Focus on the lessons learned. So again, your number one currency in this process is learning, is insight, is, oh my gosh, we would have never realized this had we not gone out and delivered an ugly baby prototype when our egos told us that we shouldn't be doing this. It's embarrassing, right? Our parents don't want to see this duct taped, prototype associated with our family name. But you've got to do that. You've got to have a bias towards action, and you've got to share those aha moments that you have through having those interviews with customers. And when it comes to actually describing the product and how it works, don't feel like you have to have a very slick mocked up version. Of course, we expect that in this class to move from low fidelity to as high fidelity as you possibly can, but show us the journey. Show us the sketch that you started with. Like Southwest Airlines started on a bar napkin, right, as a drawing. So show us that, and show us how you got to the more, pretty version of what it is that you're hoping to deliver to your end customer. So those are some of the major components. There's many other rules of thumb that we could go into, but for the sake of the key elements of an evidence-based pitch, it's absolutely key that you think about these things. And I just want to reiterate that you want to drive home the fact that you're open to considering conflicting data, because above all else, you want to come across as a researcher. You want to come across as somebody that's still in the process of learning. So you never stop learning as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, a successful one. So if you're a user of Amazon, a fan of the Amazon story or Jeff Bezos, this is a great story where when he brings his leadership team together in the Amazon boardroom, there's always one empty seat. And before they make a strategic decision about how to move the company in one direction or another, Jeff Bezos always looks at the empty chair and asks the question. And that empty chair represents the customer, who obviously wasn't invited to the meeting, but it gets the whole team thinking about, are we considering this guy in the middle of the photo? Are we considering his or her reaction to this decision we're going to make about our product offering or our value proposition within the economy? And so you constantly have to be a learner. So that's the way you want to position your presentation. You want to be open to feedback. And, we have this old adage in pitching is if you ask for money, you get advice. But if you ask for advice, you get money oftentimes. So think about that and be very open to learning at every stage. And you're never going to be finished with your evidence-based pitch deck. It's just one version after another. As you collect more data, the story will constantly change. And when you get to the point where you've got a working business model where people are throwing money or resources at you to get your innovation, that's when you go from being a startup to a legitimate enterprise. So just a couple of quick examples. I won't go into detail here, but we've had hundreds of teams construct these evidence-based pitches in both video format and present live in class, and it's always a great time. Again, you want to get everybody involved as you're recording these. As you can see here down in the picture-in-picture, you can see all the entire team is involved in both the construction of the slides and the presentation of the slides. Again, another picture-in-picture example where his teammates kind of swapped in as they were developing the product and also presenting it. And then I'm going to leave you with a resource here in Dropbox. This is Josh from an accelerator that we're aligned with up in Colorado, Techstars. Josh gives a great kind of summary of 5 components of a killer pitch. And it's very intuitive, it's very common sense, but it's worth a watch to hear from Josh. And as you're constructing this, as you're delivering this to us and out in the community, you're going to be just fine. So great job. I'm very proud of all of you. Very much looking forward to hearing your story, your journey, all the hard knocks that you've experienced, all the sweat that you put into this process. It's going to pay off. If it doesn't pay off on this cycle, it's going to pay off several cycles down the road. So just to button up my story, I'm on the doorstep of being 40 years old, and there's actually data, there's literature that supports the most successful entrepreneurs are in their 40s. So I keep telling Eli, my time is about to come. I'm just I'm having a lot of fun with you all before I find my product market fit. So wish me luck. I'm wishing you all a ton of luck. If I can be of any help to you as you proceed as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, or as someone within our organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. I wish you the best. Let's do it. Let's see your evidence-based pitch.